Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of El Internet, formerly known as the ARPANET, once controlled by we the people, but eventually taken over, as everything is, by those who are simply extractive. The billionaires, the millionaires, the oligarchs, the plutocrats, something that we all united must fight. But without further ado, we have in the studio El Señor Howard Reynolds and Jacques Van Beba.
Well, good morning, Egberto. It is Wednesday morning at the radio, the 17th of September, 2025, and I have a word of advice for some folks. It's not a rant.
He's not a rant. He has some advice for the folks. But before you give your advice, it's okay. We have to cherish. We have to cherish Wednesdays because we know mañana is on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So we only get to hear Howard's voice on Wednesdays most of the times. Ouch. So man,
which is a relief for most people.
I kind of doubt that. But anyway, what's the word, my brother? What's the word?
The word of advice is, folks, they're asking you to turn in people who are saying bad things about other people. And you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Now, consider this. You turn somebody in, maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's somebody that you don't like at work. They get attacked or possibly killed because you turned them in. How are you going to feel about that? Also, I was checking it out. These doxing websites like this, they can be sued. You can sue them. And, you can sue them for that. And you can also sue the person who turned it in because they can say, oh, it's anonymous. It's anonymous. No, it isn't, because the internet can be traced.
Amen.
And discovery and also subpoenas, they can subpoena that company to give up the information, and they have to do it. So think before you do something like that. Because not only can the website be sued, your neighbor or your friend or maybe it's a coworker you don't like and you want to cause trouble for them. The trouble is going to come back to you because you can be sued for that, and you can have to live with something that happened to this person because you turned them in on one of these doxing websites. I was researching this last night because I wanted to know, because there's all these solicitations of, turn in this person for saying something bad about this particular event that just happened. Well, okay, what happens when something bad happens to that person and you're responsible for it? The attorneys will come and see you. So think before you do this. That's my advice.
That's great advice. And the other thing that people don't realize is, not because you see something written in somebody's name mean they actually did it. So you go ahead and do that. Remember, so first of all, somebody can do it to you, and it doesn't have to be truthful, but you have to then, somehow prove your innocence, which shouldn't be the case. But in this world that we're in right now, it's a very iffy time that unless we put our big person pants on, there's a hell of a lot more pain to be felt.
Yes, indeed. Well, Egberto, that was my advice for the day. And Jack he's going to do a reading here from a book.
Oh, Jack, let's hear your reading, my brother.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, sir.
Okay, this first, it's two quotes. One is pro-neoliberalism and one is reality about neoliberalism.
Okay.
And the first one is from Kim Phillips Feen from the book Invisible Hands, The Businessman's Crusade Against the New Deal. I thought that was important.
Okay.
To before I start, okay, the pro neoliberalism is the great innovation of Hayek and Mises which were the grandfathers basically of neoliberalism, was to create a defense of the free market using the language of freedom and revolutionary change. Even as the welfare state and the mixed economy were coming into existence, Hayek and Mises set their political imperative in tearing them down. So, I mean, that's their view. They want to tear the good things, the social safety nets and stuff down, because the corporation doesn't want to pay for them, basically.
Exactly. It's a selfish thing, but, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And then the reality quote is from Robert W. Chesney in the introduction of Profit Over People, Neoliberalism and Global Order by Noam Chomsky, which is, he's a great man. Okay, neoliberal democracy, instead of citizens, it produces consumers. Instead of communities, it produces shopping malls. The net result of an atomized society and the net result is an atomized society of disengaged individuals who feel demoralized and socially powerless. In sum, neoliberalism is the immediate and foremost enemy of genuine participatory democracy, not just in the United States, but across the planet, and will be for the foreseeable future.
Well, if you look at the Reagan administration, that's what it was all about.
Yes.
They were trying to bring down the size of cars and et cetera. And then Reagan gets, build those great big gas guzzling SUVs. Nobody cares. Nobody wants these little cars. So
it was about consumer. Texas has a lot of oil. California had a lot of oil. All these places had all this, and they need people to buy it, so enrich a few. So let's keep those guys. It's the same thing that Trump did. The first thing he did was kill a lot of green energy plants, both windmills, solar panels, that big solar panel farms being built by a lot of MAGA lovers. And they realize in Maine and other places that they're now out of jobs. So, I mean, I'm going to discuss today when we start about the farmers, because a lot of folks are, want to FAFO these farmers and all these people that continue to be supporters of this guy who's harming them. I want to be a little bit conciliatory later on, but before I go on to that, anything anybody else want to say?
Take it away, Egberto.
All right. Thank you, my brother. All right. Look, first of all, folks, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard, Joe from Los Angeles, California, Philip Edwards, Michelle Poppleton, Chumsey, Richard C. Brown. Good morning from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We have Danny's from Chilabus, or Chivato, Spanish for snitch. Yeah, Chivato, snitch. I hear you, man. Joe says attorneys steal the money. If you win also, they escrow accounts. Deb Stevens, welcome aboard. Cheryl Elkins, beautiful. Thank you for your great support, Cheryl. Roxanne Klein, welcome aboard. LR, welcome. MX, Patricia Sandoval, welcome aboard. And on the other side of the chat, we also have Joe again in the chat. We have Jacqueline Campisi, who is a teacher. You know what I always tell you. Teachers, the most important profession, bar none. Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita. I think Jacqueline is from Katy. Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you all for being here. We couldn't have this place without great folk like you. Jane B. in North Carolina, welcome. John A. Davis in Minneapolis, welcome as well. All right, let's get busy. I'm going to start with, I got two calls. I better take the two calls because my monologue tends to get a bit long. So let's start with Xavier. Come on in, Xavier.
I just have a bit of advice that's kind of on par with Howard, which I find kind of coincidental. I wanted to tell people to remind them to say it's better to protect your data Proton VPN, Molvad, secure email, secure messages. Protect your freedom of thought. They already look at us like statistics, so don't give them more information to fuel the machine. Especially with AI, the last thing anybody needs is just to be another part of the algorithm. That's pretty much all I had to say. Again, Proton VPN, Molvad. Watch out for the other VPNs that still sell your data. But just because you're not someone that you think is important or a business entity doesn't mean you still should protect your data.
Thank you very much for that, Xavier. Yep, protect what you can, when you can, how you can. And he has advice. He speaks about what was the name of that firewall? Is it Proton?
Proton VPN. They also do an discrete email app, and also just try to find a decent app that does secure messaging. Especially, it's important for people like you, Egberto, who fight the calls, stuff like that, where they try to thaw you, stuff like that. For everybody, just freedom of thought. That's how these corporations keep us under control, by collecting all this data. And then there's other organizations like Rally Forge and Cambridge Analytica who are hired by these right entities to fuel the discontent with each other on the internet.
Yep. I know Trump can say thank you, Cambridge Analytica, for getting me elected in 2016. But anyway, thank you very much for that, Xavier.
Thank you, brother.
Have a great day. Cheryl Elkins also points out that Signal is good open source messaging app, which is true. I use Signal all of the time with our compatriots. Greg Owens, welcome aboard as well. Let's go to John from Cyprus. How you doing this morning, John?
Well, I'm doing pretty bad. I watched too much news yesterday, and it seems like overwhelmingly the First Amendment was being attacked.
Yes.
From all avenues. And I love what y'all said this morning to open the show, because that's what I believe. I just don't see anybody organizing on a national level to say, hey, this is what you do. You file a lawsuit if somebody does this, because so many people have lost their jobs. And we're down to the level where a teacher has to be careful what she says in a classroom. She can't teach anything. She can't even teach, or he can't even teach local public affairs, because you may say something against Charlie Kirk. And that's absurd. That is, nobody's protecting the First Amendment. What y'all said this morning should be said constantly on television, on the radio, and every website. Every progressive website should be saying what you said, what your show opened up with. File a lawsuit. You can sue them. You can sue a website. They should say that. That's number one. Number two is I worked for the United Farm Workers and when I was 18 years old back in 1967. And they have turned that scenario on its head. Because, back then, the main thing was corporate farms and big farms were bringing in people across the border. The government did nothing about it. And they were American jobs back then. And the only thing Cesar Chavez and myself, we boycotted grapes, we boycotted lettuce, and Egberto, we were trying to stop the Americans from losing their jobs because they were asking for bathrooms. They were asking for clean water out in the fields. They were asking for their women who were out there working from having to pee out in public. Because you didn't want to pay them more than $1 an hour or whatever it is they were paying them back then? I know. I was 18 years old and I worked for them. I followed Cesar Chavez around, and they turned that scenario completely on its head right now. And now I find myself saying, hey, let these people come. We need to eat. Because you're not American, and they still don't understand. Americans don't want to. You think Americans and black and white people are going to want to be out on the fields?
No,
getting paid?
That's
minimum wage.
We're going to talk about that as well today after I take the one other call. So but you're right. But let me just give you a positive affirmation here, okay? And I really want you to be, it's easier said than done. But you watch the news all the time. You have a tendency that the world is caving in and that it's all falling apart. And it only falls apart if we let it fall apart. Meaning that people are out. Look, the media right now, our biggest problem, I know a lot of folks think it's Donald Trump. Our biggest problem is the media, because there are a couple of things that you said when you talk about, people are not engaging, etc. People are more engaged now than they were when the Tea Party had all the coverage they could find on TV. The difference is all the protests that are occurring around the country, they are not televised. They're all localized, and not even the local media comes out and show the people. Here in Kingwood, very supposedly conservative Kingwood, every Thursday and several Saturdays, there are protests. I mean, there are times that we bring out 100 people, and it is making people aware. And we went from fingers, from dirty calls, from call out to people now honking their horns, giving thumbs up and saying, thank you very much. That the biggest fear of our plutocracy is that people are waking up, and they're not going to tell other people that people are waking up. And the reason why they won't say it is because it's like a fission reaction, a nuclear fission reaction. You get it started and it becomes self-sustaining. And they are scared that right now this thing explodes. And I'm saying all the kindling is there, John. All the kindling is there to get it self-sustaining. They're trying like hell to not make it that way. And I'm telling you, it is going to be self-sustaining, but we've got to act. And so no despair, brother. Really, no despair. Just act. People should act in whatever. Go ahead.
Well, let me close. Let me close with saying this. People right now still, I still don't believe what's happening. But I think the grocery prices, the vegetables and the fruit and all that, it hasn't hit the grocery stores yet. But when it does, it's going to be devastating to people. They're going to realize they should be on here.
Yeah, well, it has actually started. I don't know. I mean, you must shop at a nice economic place. But when I don't. Go ahead.
I was at HEB yesterday. It's devastating. For me, yeah. I shop 3 times a day. I'm retired, and I go and I because of my diabetes, I have to make my own food, so I have to have vegetables and fruits fresh. Right. And it is ugly already. It is ugly already.
Thank you, buddy. Let me get to John from Minneapolis so I can get started with this stuff. But thank you for calling in, brother John. All right.
Easy, man. I appreciate y'all.
Take care.
Y'all. Yes.
All right, John from Minneapolis, come on in, my brother.
Yeah, I'm reacting to what Brian said yesterday about the fall of Minneapolis. That documentary is just a propaganda piece. And speaking of so-called news, Alpha News, which is was created by far-right Republicans, and it is funded that way. And almost everything in there, as far as George Floyd, well, I would say all of it is inaccurate, false, and misleading. And none of that happened. And I live here and very close to where George Floyd was murdered by the police department. And overall, police departments operate very independently and answer usually to nobody. And in the case of this documentary, Bob Kroll's wife put it together, and he was head of the police union, and he was very corrupt, nasty piece of work. And unfortunately, within the heart of a very liberal or progressive city, there isn't much that you can do against that, no matter who is the police chief, who is the administration. And that was the consent decree by the Justice Department to, deal with that. And that was rescinded by
Donald Trump.
Trump. We're not surprised. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. That's all.
Thank you very much, John from Minneapolis. That is so true. And the right makes great documentaries. I watch quite a few of them, and I mean they know how to mislead, and that's the reason why I have grace for a lot of folks in MAGA, because again, if you are not well read, if you are not, if you have a hair of prejudice that they can tie into, that's what these things do. They validate all your prejudices and then allow it to expand and come out. Right? Look, we all have some prejudices in us. We work towards being better people so that we can not let all those externalities that created those prejudices exist. Well, they are good at doing the opposite. But thank you very much, John. I want to go ahead and get started here. Thank you, brother. All right, look. Let me first say that beforehand. I just want you to see a little bit about how the type of person that Trump is and what he intends to do with the mainstream media, and why we, the what I call the independent media, is so necessary. I played this one yesterday, and what I want to do is play it again for you, for those who didn't hear it. It's only about 4 minutes and change, and then we'll get into the farmers. But I need you to hear this, and then we'll take it on the other side. Let's see. Here we go. Today, Donald Trump threatened a national reporter, specifically ABC's Jonathan Karl. How did he do that? Well, Jonathan Karl asked a very important and specific question. What's this about Pam Bondi going after hate speech when, after all, we know that freedom of speech gives you that opportunity to do that? So he asked Donald Trump that question. Donald Trump looked at the guy and pretty much says, "You're a hater. That's why I sued your company and they had to give me $16 billion. Read, it really means that's why I extorted $16 million out of your company, even as much as they would have won that lawsuit. And by the way, they probably need to go after you." Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
And what do you make Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
You'll probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe they'll come after ABC. Well, ABC paid me $16 million recently for a form of hate speech, right? Your company paid me $16 million for a form of hate speech. So maybe they'll have to go after you. Look, we want everything to be fair. It hasn't been fair. And the radical left has done tremendous damage to the country. But we're fixing it. We have right now the hottest country anywhere in the world. And remember, 1 year ago, our country was dead. And now Washington, D.C. is fixed, and I fixed it. The mayor was fine. The mayor was just fine. Okay? The mayor had the sick city for many years. He's been mayor for many years. The one that fixed it was me and my people. And it is so safe. You should take your beautiful wife tonight and have dinner down there. You won't be shot. You won't be accosted. You won't even be looked at incorrectly by anybody.
Let me tell you why this is also upsetting. After he asked Donald Trump that question and Donald Trump answered, Donald Trump decided to pivot into him making Washington, D.C. safe. Now, the crime rate in Washington, D.C. has been on a steady decline for the last several years, and it has just continued during the 9 months of the whatever months of Trump's administration thus far. So Donald Trump has really done nothing specific that materially changed the downward spiral of crime in Washington, D.C. But after he threatens Jonathan Karl, which is a very normal tactic that these authoritarians do, right? In effect, he quieted down
Carl, because Carl allowed the president then to bloviate about crime in D.C. going down, to bloviate about what he's going to do in Chicago, what he's going to do in Memphis, etc. And never did Jonathan Carl simply say, but Mr. Trump, the crime rate is declining at the same rate that it has been declining now for several years. So what did you add to it? And what would happen as, let's say, assuming it were the National Guards that even put an attenuation on crimes, what happens when the National Guard leaves if that is the case? But that's not the case. Crime has been going down because, again, it's not just about policing. It's about programs to keep kids off the street, keep people out of trouble, give people opportunities, etc. But Jonathan Carl never got a chance to do that, ask that, or any of the sorts. And why? Because he was intimidated by the president. As the president charged him, it's amazing. This is the independent media is all that we've got, folks, because these people are not going to be able to do their job because they choose to acquiesce to the president. And the other thing is, when you hear the president, the country was dead and all these great things are happening. I'm sorry. The great things that he speaks about aren't happening. Everything that was handed to him, he's pretty much destroyed. And people are going to start seeing it. Our farmers will see it in a minute. Okay, Mike and Bart, I'm going to take you first, but quickly because I need to get into the farmers. Go ahead, Mike, real quick.
Hi, good morning, Egberto. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Muchas morning. How you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing well, my brother. Listen, I just wanted to point out really quickly, every time I hear Donald Trump talk about hate, he's always yelling at somebody about how hateful they are. And I just wanted to point out, this guy has called for the death penalty on so many people and has been using guns, the military against his own citizens. I don't understand. I don't understand how he can tell somebody that they're hateful, but he does all of these hateful things. He talks all of this hateful talk.
You're absolutely right. And the thing about it is, what we have to do, and I say we, I mean people who believe in truth, progressive folk, etc., is call them out and never get tired of calling them out. Because when they speak, when they lie and it's not pushed back on, it becomes a reality for the entire country. Like they're starting to say things like violence come from the left. Even Trump's FBI pointed out that by a 75% margin, most of the domestic terrorism, the domestic attack has been coming from the right. Even his own department, they pulled the report off the website yesterday when people started referencing the truth from the lies that the vice president and others were saying. They pulled the report yesterday. The truth is out there. Absolutely. We just have to continue to, whenever they lie about it, we have to continue to tell the truth. Thank you, Mike. I got to go. You're a good person. Let's go to, all right, sir. Bart, come on in and then real quick.
Good morning, sir. Yes. Is this the same independent media that's been telling us for the past week that the shooter was a left-winger? And I wonder if you wanted to change your narrative today on that.
Oh, absolutely not. The shooter, and let's be clear, and notice what I said, audience, whenever you have somebody that try to turn something around, tell the truth. Let's just go over very quickly about. And by the way, I'm going to let you go, Bart, because I'll answer while you're offline.
I want to know why this shooter was the right winger, and I have another question for you. Is why?
Okay, well, go ahead and ask the other question because I'll do it at once. What's the other question?
If he's a right winger, why did he shoot another right winger?
All right, we're going to explain that in a minute as well. Thank you very much, Bart. All right,
you never will.
There is a feud that has been going on between two extreme podcasters. The first one, again, one is, of course, the person who got killed. He should not have been killed. Let me point that out. But he is with Nick Fuentes. The current was a follower of Nick Fuentes.
Tyler Robinson was a follower of Nick Fuentes. There's a feud between Nick Fuentes, and you can look this up. Everybody knows. I played the video on my 3 o'clock show between Nick Fuentes and Charlie. And that feud, it's silly. They're both wrong. But anyhow, it is true that Kirk is a very hateful person. And this, as I pointed out on my program yesterday, when people on the right find out that they have been had and are armed, those who have a mental quirk and a lack of inhibition, that gun becomes their friend from that lack of inhibition. And that is what you saw. Suddenly, now that this person realized, and remember, being gay or whatever has nothing to do with what party you belong to. But now that this guy finds out what he can come out and be who he is, the others now look hateful. So to put it bluntly, Bard, he was a right-winger and he behaved exactly as the right behaves. And that is, when you don't have your way, you express it violently. Oh, God. Jimmy, real quick, I got to get to the farmers, but come on in, Jimmy.
2 things real quick. Yesterday I saw where, Trump is always bragging about all the tariffs that are coming in and they're going to make our country so rich. Well, China retaliated on our tariffs. They are no longer buying our soybeans. So the farmers who produce soybeans are just having them piled up.
That's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're about to talk about. And
my other topic is, on Channel 8, American Experience is all about President Franklin Roosevelt and how he fought World War II with Winston Churchill and all that. So it's a very interesting historical program on Channel 8, American Experience, right now about Franklin Roosevelt. I urge people to watch that.
On PBS, Channel 8?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jimmy. Have a wonderful day, my brother. LBW says, notice that the media isn't covering the revolutions in Bangladesh and other areas around the world as well, because they don't want to sow that seed that the idea of us doing the same thing is a real possibility. You nailed it. That's why LBW is a teacher. That's why LBW is la profesora. Like I tell you, moving knowledge forward. It's never happening, says my grocery bill has increased by 35%. Gas is up 40%. And orange juice in Connecticut from It's Never Happening is $10 $10 for, I imagine that's a half gallon. Okay. Now I want to talk about the farmer. Jacqueline Campisi says Trump is a poster child for gaslighting when spoken to. Absolutely so. All right. Look, I've never seen anything like it. Trump policies leave U.S. farmers in dire strait. Article from Common Dream. It's a 5-alarm fire, one Kentucky soybean farmer said, describing the harmful effect of the president's tariffs. All over TikTok, all over Instagram, I'm watching a lot of FAFOs for our farmers. And I want to remind all of us of something. I get the urge many times to do that as well. Well, you're getting what it's happening. You deserve it. After all, you voted for it. And some of you still say, even with the pain that you're going through, you're voting for it. And then I step back out of my pride. I step back out of it's earned, but out of my lack of empathy. And then I remember something that we always stood for. And it went with the phrase, united we stand, divided we fall. I also remember that if I have a sick patient, a person with a mental illness, I will have grace on them. And mental illness is not necessarily what you think it is. When I was a homophobe, when I was a sexist, I had a mental illness. I was indoctrinated from my culture. And I had to give that up. And in giving that up, it made me who I could be. And that's how I look at farmers. That's how I look at those people who vote against their own interests. That's how I look at folks who continue to fray. Now, as anticipated, U.S. President Donald Trump's economic and immigration policies are harming American farmers. They're getting it from two sides, folks, both on the labor side and on the price side. After Trump slapped a 30% tariff on Chinese imports in May, Beijing retaliated with measures including stopping all purchases of U.S. soybeans. Before the trade war, a quarter of soybeans, the nation's number one export crop produced in the United States, were exported to China, whole 25%. Trump's tariffs mean American soybean growers can't compete with countries like Brazil, the world's leading producer and exporter of the staple crop, and itself the target of 50% tariff. We depend on the Chinese market. The reason we depend so much on this market is China consumes 61% of soybeans produced worldwide. Kentucky farmer Caleb Riglin, who is president of the American Soybean Association, told News Nation on Monday, right now, we have zero sold for this crop that starts to be harvested right now. So nobody is there to buy their crop. Roland continued, it's a 5-alarm fire for our industry that 25% of our total sales is currently missing. And right now we are not competitive with Brazil due to the retaliatory tariffs that are in place. Our prices are about 20% higher. And that means that the Chinese are going elsewhere because they can find a better value. So their angst, their pain is a direct result of Donald Trump's policies. By the way, before Donald Trump was elected, he said he was going to do this, and progressives pointed out what the results are of tariffs. And they are, one, it's a tax on poor people, middle-class people. It's a tax on everybody because, again, it's money the government collects, but it's further. It's money removed from the vibrant economy. And because of our deficit spending, it's not money that is thrown back into the economy. It's money the president is going to use to continue paying for the tax cuts the wealthy gets. And when the wealthy gets this money, because wealthy people don't spend more money when they pay less taxes, they just put that money into further investments. And those further investment doesn't mean building a factory, because if people have less money, there's no reasons to build factories because they don't have the money to spend to support those. So it's a lie that's just a matter of collecting income from all of you and giving it to the few. And the American soybean farmers and their families are suffering. They are 500,000 of us that produce soybeans, and we desperately need markets and we need opportunity and a leveled playing field. There is an artificial barrier that built in with these tariffs that makes us not be competitive. Tennessee Soybean Promotion Council Executive Director Stefan Maupin likened the tariffs to death by 1,000 cuts. I'll say by one big gash, really. That's what I would say. We are in a significant and desperate situation where none of the crops that farmers grow right now turn a profit. So what does that mean? They need government subsidies. Wait a minute. Isn't that called welfare? Isn't that the things that make these folks many a times look at the few people in the urban areas on these programs a problem? We are in a significant and desperate situation. None of the crops that farmers grow right now return a profit. Alan Meadows, a fifth-generation soybean farmer in Lauderdale County, Tennessee, said, this has been a really tough year for us. What year is this again? Oh, the year that that the person you elected is now in power, the one that you thought was going to help you out. So much of what has happened, and by the way, the Farm Bill under Biden really helped out farmers, and they'll tell you about it. Even as they vote for Trump, they tell you about it. It started with devastating flooding in April, followed by a drier than usual summer. Higher supply costs due to inflation and Trump's tariffs exacerbated the dire situation. But we have a lot of crop. There's a lot of crop to be sold. So even with the floods and the drought, there is still oversupply of product, but nobody to sell it to. So much has happened, and what's going on here is totally out of our control. DC controls the market. Farmers are desperate for help from the federal government. Really? Whatever happened to lifting yourself up by your bootstraps again? Being a rugged individual? And where are most of these farms again? Red states. And what's familiar with red states again? Already, you get more money from the government than you pay, but we need to give you more to keep you afloat. I'm good with that, though. I'm telling you, I'm honestly good with that. Farmers are desperate. Maupin added that farmers have done everything right. No, they haven't. They voted wrong. They voted for what's occurring to them right now. So the first part of correcting of solving Ron's problem is correcting their behavior. I looked in the mirror when I wasn't the right kind of person. I looked in the mirror and I said, you would cease to exist. And I mean that both literally and figuratively. You have to first accept that you've made a mistake. Now, remember earlier how I started? I said, if you have somebody with a mental problem, like I had a mental problem at one time, you have to solve that problem. So how do you solve this mental problem? And this is where I want to talk to my brothers and sisters who sometimes get upset when we say, well, we got to toe the line one more time. And maybe one more time. And maybe one more time. Now is the time that the farmers are feeling pain. That our rural brothers and sisters are feeling pain as their hospitals close down. They can see it with their own eyes now. Now is the time where the educational process can actually be blended with their living experiences to have a material effects on their minds. Because you still have farmers saying this. It's not just soybean farmers that are hurting. Tim Maxwell, a 65-year-old Iowa grain and hog farmer, told BBC, our yields, crops, and weather are good, but our interest from markets right now is on a low. Why? Tariffs. Despite his troubles, Maxwell remains supportive of Trump, saying that he's going to be patient. I believe in our president. However, there is a limit to Maxwell's patience with Trump. We're giving him the chance to follow through with tariffs, but there had better be results, he said. I think we need to be seeing something in 18 months or less. We understand risk, and it had better pay off. It also not just Trump economic policies, but let me explain the opening there. I know a lot of you are saying, my God, with all the pain that you're going through, you're still a Trump supporter? Well, yeah. You know why he's still a Trump supporter? He doesn't know any better. Who is out there spending the time, the effort? And I know it's frustrating. Who's out there? LBW, help me here, Professor. Campisi, help me out, Professor. Who is there? You have to teach. You can't be an elitist. You can't be, well, damn it, if you don't know it, you should. You're feeling the pain. Then why are you doing it? Because that's all they know. That's all they know. Look, I want to hate on these people. I want to call these people all kinds of names. And then I realize I would be wrong. I'd be wrong. I need to be out there. The same effort that the right spent on polluting these people's minds is the same that the right did that. It's the same effort and more the left is going to have to do to show them that the taxes is a ripoff. And as this farmer waits for 18 months, many of his brothers and sisters will get the result that the current administration is looking for. And this is not conjecture. They said it. In the last administration, they said that many small farms will have to go. That is what Donald Trump's previous Secretary of Agriculture said. The day of the small farm is over. It doesn't need to be over. It shouldn't be over. We shouldn't have corporate farming solely. In fact, corporate farming should be the minority. But his previous agriculture secretary said it. Look it up. Now, we have to be armed and going into the den and speaking to those farmers and letting them know what the agriculture secretary said. Let them know how tariffs really work. Let them know that this is nothing but a ploy to take their lands away and turn it into corporate farms. You know, a lot of people raising chickens right now. You see all these farmers raising their chickens, but they don't own the chicken coop. It's all manufactured and processed. They build the company comes and they build the stalls for you, and what you are is a glorified worker for the corporation. That's what most farmers that raise chicken and pigs are becoming. Where they used to control their destiny, now they're controlled by corporate America. But they don't know it. They think that's the only choice that they have. And you know why it's the only choice that they have? Their profit margins are so low. And why are their profit margins low again, even though food prices in the stores are high? Because the corporations, under the auspices of neoliberalism, now under the complete tenets of the right and the middle left, that's what they're doing to you. But they don't know that. Nobody has the patience to take the slights as they attack you, to go in and constantly tell them, talk to them, talk to them, talk to them. They're whipping your butt. Talk to them. Show them. When your kid keeps doing the wrong thing, do you stop and say, well, just go to jail? Because that's what you're going to turn out to be? Or you keep speaking to them. Put in your all effort into it. I have a 34-year-old daughter, and there are times that things that she doesn't know that I'm still working on. And that's what you got to do. And there, as LBW says, it's a perfect time to provide off-ramps to those who are in the right lane of the MAGA movement while they're struggling, while they're not able to make ends meet. And let them know that J.D. Vance has invested a huge amount of dollars in Acre Trader, which will buy up their foreclosures. That is important, what LBW just pointed out. The vice president is buying a lot of stocks into the company that's going to buy the land when you go bankrupt. The farmers need to know that. We need to go into farmland and tell them that. I think you get the gist of where I'm going with the farmers now. So I'm going to take the calls and ask the callers to restrict themselves to a minute because we're full. Coach AJ, come on in.
Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, brother. Talk to me.
First thing, are food prices better, like we were promised? Has anybody done anything to reduce food prices?
No.
I'm always concerned for our seniors. Most of them on a fixed income, only have Social Security. It's a time when we need to boost something to that group. And thank God for the schools. At least people get to eat. The other thing is the national debt is out of control. The Republicans never talk about the national debt. Loss of jobs. How does somebody cut thousands of jobs, government jobs, put people in situations where they can't get capital and they got to cut? And he says, I'm going to fire the person that's keeping the books. He's the one that took in the books.
Exactly.
And
real quick, AJ.
Everything he does is nothing but a lie out of his mouth.
Thank you,
He's
brother.
the most lying person I've ever met in my whole life, and I haven't met him yet.
I hear you. Got to go, Coach. Thank you, my brother. Let's go to Brian. Brian, minute.
Yes. Cash Patel went before Congress yesterday, and a female senator asked him, why is he requiring women to do one pull-up? And it was an excellent answer. It's, you're going to go against a bad guy, you better be able to defeat him. And the other thing is this a talk show or an attempt at brainwashing? You know that when J.D. Vance gets elected, all of his investments is put in a portfolio, and he doesn't know what he's buying. Other investors are making his money. The same with the president.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Brian. You continue to defend the people that are screwing you, but enjoy yourself. Have a good day, Brian. Let's go to Bruce. Come on in, Bruce.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Bruce.
Yeah, I'll be kind of brief. I think you answered my question a little while ago. I was going to say that a lot of these farms are owned by corporate entities, and we know Trump loves big business. Why aren't they and why aren't Monsanto raising Cain about these tariffs? And the other question I have, well, it's not a question, it's a statement. It's we can't let Trump turn into Pinochet. We got to stand firm. I'm done.
Thank you very much, my brother. It's important because what Bruce just asked is very important. Why is it that corporations are staying so quiet about tariffs? Because they understand what tariffs are going to do to the small businesses. Absolutely what it's going to do to it's going to destroy them, and they'll be ready to pick up the pieces. It's just like when we had the crash in the markets. All those homes that got repossessed, etc., they went to the corporations, and these corporations held them off market till prices went up. They made a hell of a return on their investment. As LBW pointed out, there are people just ready for these farmers that they claim to love but don't. I mean, if they love them so much, the prices in the grocery stores are very high, and somehow the margins that the farmers get are not increasing. The prices in the stores are getting higher, but the farmers who produce these products are not making any more. You should ask yourself the question. And all of this is what we need to express to farmers. Take them the price of what you're buying the eggs for and let them see how much they are selling the eggs for. Those are the things we have to show them in black and white. Come on in, Michael. 1 minute. Okay, line 4, Michael. Michael, line 4, you're on. All right. If Michael is not there, let's go ahead and go to Augie. Line 5.
Good morning. For Bart, the shooter that killed Kirk, he was raised in a conservative, Republican, gun-loving family, and he was fed all these lies until he had a gay partner. I was raised in the 50s and 60s, and it was strongly anti-gay until I met gay people. Then I found out they were just human beings like the rest of us. And in the 50s and 60s, it was also anti-abortion. And in the news, women were being killed because they couldn't get abortion. There were school teachers, nurses, housewives, business people. They were being killed too. As far as Bart, the guy who shot at the president in Pennsylvania, he was a registered Republican. The guy that hit Pelosi's husband with a hammer, he was a Republican. The guy that killed the woman Democratic politician and her husband and the dog, he was a Republican. So, yeah. And as far as the corporate meat markets, the workers in the meat plants, they're immigrants. There's ones that are cutting up the Tyson chicken, the ones that are cutting up the meat. And our steaks are coming from Brazil. The nice juicy steaks that you get, a bunch of them are coming from Brazil. Now they're going to be going somewhere else.
Exactly.
But that's Egberto.
Thank you very much, my brother. Very important that people know these things. Have a good day, Augie. I want to give my condolences to Joe, who lost her great friend in Venice, California, Yolanda Miranda. Joe, you have my most touching and sincere condolences. Jacqueline Campisi said they don't and won't admit they're wrong.
or they are misled. It's hard. Look, it's so hard and that's why I worry so much when these people realize they've been had and that they're well armed. I'm not worried about them coming for people on the left. I'm worried about them coming for people on the right, like what this guy did. Like I said, murder or killing is wrong. But when you find out suddenly that you've been had, you've been made a fool out of, or that you've been lied to, that's usually a response to many. Anthony LeFranco says Kirk's murder was 22. That means since puberty, he has been hearing Trump and MAGA hate. And that's a statement of fact, Anthony, a statement of fact. All right, let's go to the studio. El Señor Howard Reynolds, Jacques Van Bebel.
Well, I'm always amused and amazed by what Brian has to say. And he sometimes calls me out, which is fine. He can do that. But he never disappoints as far as me looking at the ceiling and going, what in the hell are you talking about? Okay, Jack's got something.
Yeah, farmers are hurting. Construction companies are hurting. Restaurants are closing. There are empty shelves in the grocery store. They don't need the people anymore, and it shows. They want slaves and serfs they can exploit and force them to pay the high corporate prices.
But Jack, they're making America great again. What in the hell are you talking about?
But they're all Grinches.
What? Well, great for who is my question. Take it home, Egberto.
Thank you, my brothers. Let me tell you something, folks. United we stand, divided we fall. I am not leaving my MAGA brothers at all. Brian calls and I know it's him. I know what I'm going to get. Bart calls and I know it's going to, but they help me connect with some of MAGA. Love all of you. You guys are great. You guys in the chat are great. Let me just tell you that. Love all of you. Please get the rest at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and write me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only